Why reading in English is the best way to learn. Welcome to my channel. Let me ask you something. You try to speak English, but you forget words. You feel stuck. You study grammar, watch videos, use apps, but still, it feels slow. You ask, why is my English not improving? Maybe you are learning the wrong way. Let me tell you a secret. The best way to learn English is not speaking, not grammar. It's reading. Yes, reading simple English books. Reading changed my life, and it can change yours too. In this video, I'll show you why reading is the most powerful way to learn. Have you ever felt stuck like this before? Comment below. I read every one. Let's begin. Chapter 1. I thought reading was boring until it opened my mind. I remember the first time someone told me to read in English. I laughed. I thought, how can I read? I don't even understand simple words. Books looked scary. So many pages, so many words, no pictures, no fun. I believed reading was for smart people, for fluent people, not for someone like me. I thought reading was boring, and I was afraid. So I avoided it. I watched videos, I listened to audio, I tried apps, but still, I was stuck. I could not speak fluently. I forgot words. I didn't feel confident. One day, I walked into a small bookstore. I wasn't planning to buy anything, but something caught my eye. A book with big letters, colorful pictures. It said, Easy English Story, Level 1. I opened the first page. The sentence said, This is Anna. She is happy. I smiled. I understood it. It was the first time I read an English sentence and felt no fear. I turned the page. Anna has a dog. The dog is big. Again, I understood. I could see the picture. I could read the words. I felt something strange. I felt hope. That night, I bought that book. I went home, sat on my bed, and read the whole book. It had only 20 pages. The story was simple. A girl and her dog go to the park. But for me, it was magic. I wasn't studying, I wasn't translating, I was just reading and understanding. My brain was calm. My heart was happy. I felt like a little child again, learning something beautiful and new. I didn't know it then, but that book changed my life. The next day, I read it again. This time, the words felt easier. I could say them without stopping. I repeated the sentences. Anna is happy. She has a dog. I could read them out loud. I sounded better. My pronunciation improved without practice. Just reading made me speak better. And I started to fall in love with stories. Before this, I thought reading was too hard. I thought it was boring. But now, reading became my secret place, my safe space. No one judged me. No one rushed me. I could go slow. I could read one line again and again. I could feel the words. I could see the story. It was like watching a movie in my head, but in English. That small book opened a big door for me. It showed me I can learn English without stress, without fear, just by reading. Slowly, happily, calmly. I didn't need to memorize. I didn't need to repeat 100 times. I just needed to read what I enjoyed. And every time I read, my brain learned something new. I started to look for more books, more simple stories. Some had animals, some had children, some had adventures, and I read them all. One book a week, then two, then three. My English improved more in 1 month of reading than in 1 year of grammar exercises. Why? Because I was learning with emotion, with feeling, with connection. And here's the best part. I didn't just learn new words, I started to understand full sentences. I didn't translate, I just understood. Like magic, like a song, like a memory coming back. It was natural, it was easy. I didn't even try hard. And that's when I realized reading is not boring, reading is not difficult, reading is powerful. If you're afraid of reading, I understand you. I was there too. But maybe you're just reading the wrong kind of book. Don't start with hard novels. Don't start with long grammar books. Start with one small story, one picture book, one book that feels like a friend, not a teacher. You'll see, one book can open your mind, just like it opened mine. That's why I say, reading is not just about learning English. It's about changing your brain. It's about building confidence. It's about falling in love with words. That first easy book gave me my first win, and every win gives you power. That's what keeps you going. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. So go find one story, a short one. Read it with joy. Read it without fear. Read it like it's your first step to a new world, because it is. Chapter 2. Words you read stay in your brain longer. When I first started reading, I noticed something strange. I could remember the words from the story better than the words from my textbook. I didn't try to memorize them. I didn't repeat them 50 times. But somehow, the words stayed in my brain. I didn't forget them the next day. I didn't mix them up. I could see the word, and I knew the meaning. I could say it. I could use it in my speaking. I asked myself, why? And then I understood. When I read, I see the word in context. That means I see the word inside a full sentence. My brain connects the word with a picture, a story, a feeling. That is why it remembers. For example, I read the word run. Just one word. In a grammar book, it's boring. Run is a verb. It means to move fast. Okay. But in a story, I read this. The boy runs to the tree. He is happy. Now it's alive. I can see the boy. I can feel his joy. The word run becomes real. And now I never forget it. Reading makes words come alive. This is why reading is better than flashcards. When you just see a word and its meaning, your brain is slow. It doesn't make deep connections. But when you see that word many times in stories, it becomes your word. It enters your memory without pain. That is the power of context. That is why words you read stay longer. Let me tell you about another word, cold. I saw this word in many stories. First, it is a cold day. Anna wears a coat. Next story. The baby is cold. She cries. Another story. He drinks cold water after a run. 3 stories. Same word. Different uses. Different feelings. But my brain didn't get tired. It was happy. It was learning like a child, natural, easy, full of pictures. Many learners say to me, I know a word today, but tomorrow I forget it. I say, that's because you're trying to learn words without stories. Words without stories are like water in your hand. They fall, they disappear. But words inside stories, they stay. They grow roots in your brain. That's how real learning happens. When I read, I see some words again and again. And every time I see them, I understand them better. The first time, I may only guess. The second time, I feel more sure. The third time, I know it. And then, one day, I use it when I speak. Not because I studied it, but because it became part of me. That is what reading does. Reading gives you real English, living English, the kind people use. Not just words, but how the words live together. Phrases, expressions, sentences. That's how you become fluent, not just by knowing 1,000 words, but by knowing how they move and dance together. Reading gives you that dance. And the best part? You don't need to try hard. You just need to read. No pressure, no fear. You enjoy the story, and while you enjoy, your brain works silently. It takes the words, it builds the connections, it grows your language. That's deep learning. That's long memory. That's real fluency. I want you to think now. What was the last English word you learned from a story? Maybe it was happy, or apple, or school. Try to remember the sentence. Try to remember the picture. If you remember it, that means your brain is already doing the work. You just need to give it more. More stories, more words, more joy. Reading is not only for learning, it is for remembering, and remembering is the key to speaking. So if you want to remember more words, read more stories. Let your brain learn in the natural way. Don't fight it. Don't force it. Just enjoy the story, and the words will stay. That's how I learned my first 100 words in English. Not from lists, not from grammar books, from stories. And I still remember them, because they are not just words, they are memories. Chapter 3. Reading makes you think in English without trying. When I first heard someone say, think in English, I didn't understand. I thought, how can I think in English? I still translate in my mind. I read a sentence, I translated it. I heard someone speak, I translated it. I wanted to stop, but I didn't know how. Every word first went into my native language, then back into English. It was slow. It made speaking difficult. It made listening confusing. But I kept going. And one day, something changed. I was reading a story, a simple one, and I suddenly noticed I was not translating. I was just understanding. The words went straight into my brain. I felt them. I didn't need to change them. That was the first moment I truly thought in English. And the secret was reading. Reading helped my brain see English as a full language, not as a puzzle, not as math, but as life. When I read a sentence like, the sun is shining, I didn't stop to think, sun means, no, I saw the picture. I felt the moment. It was automatic. It was natural. And that's when I knew reading is the best way to train your brain to think in English, without stress, without effort. Let me explain why. When you read, you go slow. You don't rush. Your brain has time. It sees the words, it feels the flow, it learns how English sounds in the mind. And little by little, your brain stops translating. It starts thinking in full English sentences. You read, "She goes to the market." Your mind sees a girl walking. You feel it, you live it, and you never once think in your native language. This is the magic of reading. When we try to speak, we feel pressure. We want to speak fast, but the brain is not ready. It searches for words, it panics. But when we read, there is no panic. No one is watching, no one is waiting. It's just you and the story. And in that calm space, the brain learns deeply. It creates English thoughts, thoughts that are ready to be spoken later. I remember the first time I spoke to someone in English, and I said, "I'm not sure, but I think it's this way." After I said it, I realized I read that sentence in a book. I didn't study it, I didn't memorize it, but it was already in my brain because I had seen it, felt it, lived it in a story. This is why reading is so powerful. It gives you full sentences, full thoughts, and those thoughts become your words. The more I read, the more my brain changed. I started to think in English when I walked outside. I looked at the sky and thought, "It's a beautiful day." I saw a dog and thought, "He looks happy." I didn't need to translate anymore. English became the voice in my mind, and it felt good. It felt free. So many learners ask me, how do I stop translating in my head? My answer is always the same. Read. Read simple books. Read stories you enjoy. Read every day, and your brain will start to think in English. Not because you force it, but because you give it the language it needs to think with. Don't try to think in English directly. That's like trying to fly without wings. Reading gives you the wings. It fills your mind with the sounds and shapes of English. So when the time comes, your brain already knows what to do. Even now, when I think about my daily life, I often think in English. I make a cup of tea and say in my mind, "Let's drink something warm." I hear a sound and think, "What was that?" These small thoughts, they all come from reading. Reading trained my brain, not fast, but slowly, softly, deeply. That's the gift reading gives you, the gift of natural English thoughts. You don't see it happen right away, but one day you catch yourself thinking in English and you smile because you realize this is fluency. This is real progress. And the best part? It doesn't feel like study. It feels like life. Chapter 4. How reading improved my speaking even when I was silent. When people ask me, "How did you learn to speak English so well?" they expect me to say, "I practice speaking every day." But the truth is different. In the beginning, I did not speak much. I was shy. I was scared. I was afraid to make mistakes. I stayed silent in class. I listened to others. I watched videos. But most of all, I read. I read simple stories every single day. I didn't speak aloud. I didn't practice with a partner. But still, something changed. My speaking improved, and it surprised me. I didn't know it then, but reading was training my mouth, even when I didn't open it. When I read a sentence like, "I want to go home," I read it in my head many times. I read it silently, but I could hear it in my brain. I imagined the voice. I imagined the sound. That voice became my voice. I was building speaking habits without speaking. Later, when I needed to speak in real life, something amazing happened. I didn't have to create the sentence. It was already there. I had read it before. My brain knew it. My tongue followed. It was smooth. It felt easy because I had read that sentence 10 times in stories. That's how reading works. It gives you real English. It gives you full sentences. It fills your brain with useful language. And then, when it's time to speak, your brain gives it back automatically. Reading teaches you how people talk. It shows you real conversations. In books, I saw how people ask questions. What's your name? Do you like pizza? I saw how they answer. Yes, I do. No, I don't. I saw polite English, friendly English, emotional English. Books gave me a speaking teacher, a silent one, a kind one, a patient one. And the best part? I didn't feel stress. I didn't feel fear. When I read, no one laughed, no one corrected me. I was safe. And in that safe space, I learned better. I repeated the same dialogues many times. I whispered them. I copied the characters in my mind. I followed the rhythm. I felt the emotion. That's how my speaking muscles got stronger. Reading gave me something else, too. It gave me confidence. Because when I read a full story in English, I felt proud. I didn't stop every 5 words. I didn't cry. I finished it. And that made me believe in myself. That belief helped me speak. It pushed me forward. One day, I met a tourist. He asked me, "Excuse me, do you know where the market is?" My heart jumped. I was nervous. But my mouth answered, "Yes, go straight and turn left." I didn't plan it. I didn't translate. I just said it. I had read a similar sentence in a story. It came back. That was my first real conversation in English, and reading made it possible. Many learners think they must speak a lot to get better, but I say this: you can build strong speaking skills by reading, especially if you're shy, especially if you're just starting. Reading is speaking practice in silence. It feeds your brain the right words. It shows you how sentences move. It teaches you how English really sounds. Later, yes, you will need to speak aloud. You will need to practice. But reading prepares you. It builds your base. It gives you the tools. Without that, speaking becomes hard. But with reading, speaking becomes easier. You already know the patterns. You already know the words. So if you feel too shy to speak now, read. Read every day. Read with feeling. Read with focus. Imagine the sounds in your head. Speak inside your brain. That's how it starts. That's how fluency begins. Chapter 5. I made reading a daily habit. Here's what changed. In the beginning, I read only once a week. I picked up a book, read a few pages, and felt good. But then I forgot. I got busy. Days passed. I didn't read again. My progress was slow. I learned a little, then forgot a little. One day I asked myself, what if I read every day? Just 10 minutes. Not a big goal, just a small habit. I wanted to try, so I made a plan. Every morning, before I looked at my phone, I picked up a short English story. I read one page only. That was my new habit. At first, it was hard to remember. Some days, I didn't want to do it. My brain said, just skip it. One day doesn't matter. But I didn't listen. I told myself 1 page. That's all. Just read 1 page. And every time I finished a page, I felt a small success, a small win. And small wins make big change. After 1 week, I started to enjoy it. The stories became interesting. The words felt more familiar. My eyes moved faster. I didn't stop after every word. I didn't need to check the dictionary all the time. I could guess the meaning from the sentence. I could feel the English. It wasn't just reading, it was training. My brain was learning without pain, and I loved that feeling. 2 weeks later, I added reading at night too. Before sleeping, I read one more page. So now I was reading 2 pages a day, one in the morning, one at night. Just 10 minutes total. But I felt the difference. I started to dream in English. I started to think in English. I started to feel more confident. Not because I was studying harder, but because I was learning deeper. Every day, I learned one or two new words. I saw old words again. I understood grammar without lessons. I saw how sentences were made. I saw how questions worked. I saw polite ways of speaking. All from stories, all from my daily reading habit. One morning, I looked at a sign outside. It said caution, wet floor. I smiled. I knew all the words. Not because I studied them, but because I read them before in a story. That's when I realized something big. When you read every day, English becomes part of your life. Not just a subject, not just a goal. It becomes your second voice. I didn't need to force myself anymore. Reading became like brushing my teeth, a normal part of my day. I looked forward to it. I carried my book with me. On the bus, in the park, in a quiet corner. Reading gave me peace. It gave me power. It gave me progress. And I didn't need to speak. I didn't need a partner. Just one book, one page, one quiet moment. Many learners try to do too much. They try to read for 1 hour. They get tired. They stop. They forget. That's why I say start small. Read 1 page. Read 2. Don't worry about finishing fast. Focus on building the habit. That's where the real power is. Not in big study days, but in small, daily steps. After 1 month of daily reading, I could feel the change in my brain. I understood more. I remembered more. I spoke more clearly. I wrote better sentences. And I felt proud because I built that change with my own hands, with my own eyes, with my simple daily reading habit. You don't need magic. You don't need big words. You just need one small step every day. That's how fluency grows. That's how confidence grows. That's how you change your English and your life. Chapter 6. What to read and what to avoid. When I first decided to read in English, I made a mistake. I picked a big book. It was famous. It had many long words. People said, "This is a classic." But after 5 pages, I gave up. I didn't understand anything. The sentences were too long. The grammar was too difficult. I felt lost and tired. I thought reading was not for me. I thought I was not smart enough. But I was wrong. The problem wasn't me. The problem was the book. Later, I found an easier book, a story for beginners. It had pictures, it used simple words, and it made me smile. I could understand the sentences. I could follow the story. I didn't need to look in the dictionary again and again. And this time, I finished the book. That felt amazing. I learned a lesson that day. If the book is too hard, it will break your heart. If the book is just right, it will build your brain. So what should you read? Start with graded readers. These are books made for English learners. They are written in simple language. You can find them by level. Level 1 for beginners, level 2, and so on. Choose level 1 if you're just starting. These books use short sentences and common words, but they still tell good stories. Mystery, love, adventure, real emotion in easy English. You can also read children's storybooks. They are not only for kids, they are for smart learners. They have clear pictures, they teach basic grammar and vocabulary in a fun way. Many learners feel shy to read children's books, but trust me, those books are gold. I read The Very Hungry Caterpillar 5 times when I started. I still remember the words because I enjoyed the story. That's what matters. Another great idea is to read short stories online. Many websites have free stories for English learners. Look for ones that say A1 or Easy English. Choose topics you like: travel, school, family, food. If the story makes you curious, you'll want to keep reading. That's how learning happens naturally. Now let's talk about what to avoid. Avoid books that make you feel tired. Avoid books where every sentence has 3 new words. Avoid Old English. Some classic novels use strange grammar and words that people no longer use. These books are good for advanced learners, not beginners. If a book makes you feel small, don't read it. Find a book that makes you feel strong. Also, avoid reading just for tests. Reading is not only for exams, it's for life. If you only read test materials, your English will sound cold and robotic. But if you read real stories, your English will sound human and warm. You will learn how people feel, think, and speak in real life. One more tip. Don't read translations. If you already know the story in your language, reading it in English won't help much. You will just match the words, but your brain will not grow. Instead, choose a new story. A story that surprises you. A story that teaches you both English and emotion. If you find a book that feels just a little difficult, not too easy, not too hard, that's the best one. That means your brain is working, but not hurting. You learn the most in that sweet middle place. That's where progress lives. I remember reading a book called Anna and the Secret Room. It had short chapters, simple sentences, but the story was exciting. I wanted to know what happened next. I read 1 chapter every day. At the end of the week, I finished it. That one book gave me 100 new words, and I didn't even feel tired. That's the power of reading what you enjoy. So now I ask you, what do you like? Funny stories? Adventures? Love stories? Choose something that makes you smile. Don't just read to study. Read to feel something. That feeling will teach you more than grammar ever can. Chapter 7. My English became strong because I fell in love with reading. When I look back now, I see it clearly. My English changed not because I was perfect, not because I studied the most, not because I knew all the grammar rules. No, my English became strong because I fell in love with reading. Reading gave me what nothing else could. It gave me a reason to enjoy English, a reason to stay, a reason to come back every day. I was not reading to learn. I was reading to feel, to explore, to connect. And that changed everything. I didn't notice the change at first, but it was there. Quiet, steady, powerful. I started to understand people better. I could follow conversations. I could answer without fear. I didn't need to think so hard. I didn't need to search for every word. My sentences became smoother. My words felt natural. I didn't memorize phrases, I lived them. I had read them so many times, they became part of me. I started to enjoy English. I smiled when I read a funny line. I cried when I read a sad ending. I got curious. I wanted to read more. I wanted to know how the story ended.
That emotion made me stronger. It made me stay on the journey, even when it was slow, even when I didn't feel fluent, even when no one saw my progress. Reading made me believe in myself. Before reading, I was afraid of English. I felt small. I felt stupid. But reading gave me power. Not loud power, silent power. The kind that grows inside. The kind that makes you calm. That tells you, you're doing fine. Keep going. That's what reading gave me. It gave me trust in myself. I remember one night clearly. I was reading a story about a boy who lost his dog. I felt sad. I felt close to him. And when I finished the story, I thought, I just felt all of that in English. That was a beautiful moment. It showed me I don't just know English words, I understand English feelings, and that is real fluency. Now, when people ask me, how did you become fluent? I don't say, I worked very hard. I say, I read. I read every day. I read with love. I read like it was my friend. And it was. Books became my friends. They were always there, always patient, always kind. They waited for me. They taught me. They changed me. I'm still learning. Every day. Every book. But now, English is not just a language I study. It is part of my life. I think in English. I feel in English. I dream in English. And all of that started with one small book. So if you are just starting, if you feel lost, if English feels too hard, pick up a story. Not a textbook, not a grammar book. A story, a real one, with real people, real feelings, real life. Read slowly. Read with joy. Read with hope. And one day, you'll see what I saw, that your English has grown like a tree, quiet, strong, and full of life. Reading is not a trick. It's not a shortcut. It's the real way, the kind way, the deep way. It's how we build language in the heart, not just the brain. You don't need to be fast. You just need to be faithful. Open a book. Read one page. Feel one word. That's how it begins. If this story touched your heart and you now understand why reading is the best way to learn English, then take the first step today. Pick one short English story, read one page, just one. Then tomorrow, read another. And if you want more stories, more tips, and more support from someone who understands this journey, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and leave a comment. I want to fall in love with reading. Let's grow together. Let's read together. Your English story is just beginning.